Guys, I got an exciting video for you guys today. We are going to talk about some nerdy stuff and we're going to have spreadsheets. It's going to be very exciting. But first, get those pants off. Mine are already off. But you can only watch my videos without pants on. That's really the only way to do it. I mean, if you're doing it any other way, you're doing it wrong. Let's toast again. Let's toast to Ashes of Creation coming out before 2073. Oh. Okay, we're going to talk about stats. And so stats in Ashes of Creation, there's a lot of them, and it looks a little confusing when you first look at it, but basically in Alpha 1, when you open your character sheet, you had your stats section, and you have these 6 kind of base stats, and I guess health and mana are kind of a base stat too, but these are your base stats, and these are all kind of, I don't know if you'd call them secondary stats, but they're based on basically when your power goes up, it increases these 3, dexterity increases these 4, so on and so forth. And you can see this all pretty clearly over here. So basically power and dexterity are kind of your physical type skills and damage mitigation stats. Constitution is a very defensive stat. It also does give you health. Which isn't listed here, but this shows just HP regen, but it also does give you health. Will and wisdom are a little bit more along the lines of magical DPS. It does give you magical cooldowns, things like that. Mentality is more along the lines of mana and magical defense. So those are your stats. And if you want a little bit more info on this, outside of what you can get in the wiki, I was doing some searching in the Discord and I ran across this guy. His name is Mutant Gun on the official Ashes Discord. I was just kind of searching because what I wanted to know was how, as these level up, as your Constitution goes up, how much does it affect your physical evasion bonus and things like that? Or I mean your Constitution things. This guy figured it out, at least for tanks, and my assumption is it may be pretty close to the same for the other classes. For each level, and this is for tanks, he wrote this guide for basically tanks in Ashes of Creation Alpha 1. Probably the first guide for tanks in Ashes of Creation history, so props on that. And he shows basically per level you get 20 hit points. And it shows the breakdown of what each of these does in terms of 1 point of power gives you 0.4% physical damage bonus, so on and so forth. And you see all of these here. So that is pretty cool. He has a couple other kind of cool things that I saw on here. So the formulas, so for damage mitigation, basically damage mitigation is a percent stat. So if you get to 100 damage mitigation, is what the skill Ultimate Defense did. Basically, that means you have 100% damage mitigation. And you can go through this formula here, but when you put 100 for in here, it negates 100% of damage taken via that formula. Yeah, I think that was the main thing. As your base stats and stat growth. So this is what tanks start with. So kind of the base is 10 on all these, but then tanks get +3 power, +1 dex, +3 con, and +63 health at the start. And he broke that down for the first 10 to 11 levels here. So that is pretty cool as well. And what I did is I kind of made a little spreadsheet, and I had to make some guesses and assumptions kind of using that information. And I was in Alpha 1 as well, and I didn't think to collect this data like he did. I collected quite a bit of data, and if you watch my video on the leveling and tips guide for Alpha 1, I just compiled all sorts of just little things, neat little things that I found in the game, and I just put them into one big Google Doc, and you can look at that. And the problem with most of all this stuff is it's all going to change most likely before release. But with this stats thing, this is kind of the one thing I think maybe from Alpha 1 that has a decent chance where most of it probably does make it to release without massive changes. I can't imagine there's going to be drastic changes to stats. I mean, they'll probably change. They will probably change like how much you get per level and tweak the numbers a little bit. But, you know, I think will, wisdom, mentality, dexterity, con, they're probably all going to be with us. Power, they'll all be with us upon release. They'll just be little tweaks to how much each class gets and so on and so forth based on levels. Now, what I did, this is basically a calculator. And if you look here, this is the multiple from here, which came from Newton Gunn's page. So I have that hidden, but you can, if you file make a copy of this spreadsheet, I will have a link to this spreadsheet in the description. You can make a copy and you can click this, open that up if you want to see that, but I just hit it to make it a little cleaner. And basically what you can do with this, it's very basic so far, and I may expand upon this and make it a little bit more complex, but so far I just have tank, cleric, and mage in here. When you select cleric and you select your level, you can select your increase that you want for gear. Just put like just a base percentage. So Steven has said that legendary gear will give you a 40 to 50% stat boost. So basically I just put in across the board 50% stat boost at the end of all these stats to compensate for gear. And so you can change. So at level 15, I don't remember how much health my cleric had at level 15. I want to say it was more than that, but I can't remember. But I know I looked at a tank video somebody had of Alpha 1, and this health actually came out pretty close to correct. So, and the thing is with the tanks, I have more information on the stats with tanks because Mutant Gun collected all that information on how much they get per level and so on. So I think the tank is pretty accurate here, and the others may not be as accurate. So we can maybe estimate possibly that a tank could have 3,700 health at max level with legendary gear on, but this is just completely guess. Probably going to be way off base because we're making a lot of assumptions at this point with very limited playtesting and very limited data. But basically, this is where I do all the calculations, and then there's just a VLOOKUP that happens for all of these or it's an HLOOKUP actually, that looks up all of these and finds the stats based on the level that is chosen. And it's all of these, I kind of just made some assumptions. So what I did here, basically, so he had the first 10 levels. What I did is I took the average, I took the sum of these 10, and then I divided that by 10. So you get basically 1.1 power per level as a tank, and that's kind of why you have some blanks and stuff, because I think there was some rounding and stuff that was going on and causing some of the why some levels you would not get a point. I think it was just due to rounding. And same with dexterity. So I did the same thing on all these, basically averaged it out. So tanks get 0.7 dex per level on average. So then I just dragged that all the way up to 50. And then I just did a running tally up here, just a running total for all these things. And of course health, tanks get a bonus health per level of 20. So I did the 20 plus the 31.5 times the Constitution, because also in Mutant Gun's website he shows that Constitution gives you 31.5 health per level. So I calculate the health gained per level up here. And the same with mana, you get 31.5 mana per mentality. So I calculated that out as well and added that up here sequentially. And so that is how you get this page here. So this will be the main page here that if you want to play around with, you could play around with it. And I know it's, there's not much to it yet, but maybe I could expand upon this in the future. And the thing is, when Alpha 2 comes, I'll already have this kind of set up, so it'll make it a little easier to get the correct numbers kind of put in here and play around with that. So it'll give us something to play around with when the servers are not up, which kind of could be something, I guess, to do. The other thing is he did notice that tanks also get a physical damage bonus per level outside of these 6 stat increases, so I also factored that in. That's also factored in here with this formula. So basically, if you get rid of tank, you'll see the massive power drop because cleric does not have that bonus per level. So there's that. And cleric, I don't know what the cleric bonus was per level. There is a 5 health bonus per level that I basically extrapolated through the data. And mage, I assume maybe they get like a 10 magical attack damage, but this is just an assumption. And as far as I can tell, they don't seem to get a health per level. So I just put 10 magical attack damage. But again, that's just kind of a guess, but that's something that I kind of assumed they would get. So again, it's just added to the end of that formula. And when you select mage at level 50, you notice they get a lot more magical attack damage than the other classes. So that's that. Did some other kind of testing of stuff that I you know, whether or not I continued expanding upon these, I don't know. But I basically did a talent point calculator, whatever you want to call it here, to where you can select. In the alpha, you could only select, you spend 2 points and you get tier 1 and rank 1. And there was no rank 2, rank 3 on the passives. Actives I haven't done hardly anything with. And the thing is, the actives only kind of augment or modify your skills. So they don't affect your stats. So for the purpose of this, maybe not super useful. And then of course weapons weren't even implemented yet in alpha, so I didn't mess with that at all. Maybe that's something I expand upon, and it wouldn't be that hard to add a formula to put the health per second. I could formulate that. I could calculate based on max health that. A lot of this could anyways, like the defense mitigation by 4. That I could add that in pretty easily to this. And by defense mitigation, that means apparently magical defense mitigation and also physical defense mitigation. So if you have that selected, you know, you'd have +4 on both of these is what you would have for that. So I mean, I could implement that at some point, but this is not implemented yet into the stats calculator. So it will not, anything you select here will not affect anything over there. But I could eventually implement that. This is kind of a prototype to maybe do that at some point. And then over here, I kind of messed around with paper doll and like, you know, there is in the wiki, there is a few items. There's maybe like, I don't know, 30 some items that you could select. And I could build these all in here, but I only have one in there so far. And basically I still haven't even put in the stuff, but I could put this data in here and you could really fine tune the stats section then. And what I could even do is kind of put this all on this page and put all the stats down here so you could put your gear on and see what it would do for your stats. That is all possible to do all these things, but you know, I have limited amount of time, so there is no guarantee that I'll ever do any of these things. But it's something I played around with. I like messing around with spreadsheets. I'm kind of a spreadsheet nerd, so I built this for you guys if you want to play around with it. You know, it is what it is. It's there's not much to it, but it did take quite a while to make, regardless of whether it's basic or not. So if you want to play around with it, I'll put a link to it in the description. All right, guys, pants back on. And I got something real special. I got a real special guest for you guys today. I have the one, the only Sir Elton John is going to play us out while the credits roll today on today's video. He's going to give us his rendition of Rocket Man, which of course is everybody's favorite Sir Elton John song. So enjoy that, and we'll see you in the next video. It's gonna be a long, long time till touchdown brings me round to get to find not the man they think I am at home. Oh, no, no, no. I'm a rocket man. Rocket man.